Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Jake Paul is back in the news, and for good reasons, man. Jake Paul he went on record to say that the fight between him and Tommy Fury is 90% done. And that's great news for guys like me who think that Jake Paul has a good chance of making some noise in boxing. I think we're beyond the point with Jake Paul where we no longer should be seeing him as a Disney kid, as a clown, as a YouTuber who does things just to get a reaction. I think he kind of been there, done that. In addition, he's received a couple of huge paydays for his fights, and Jake Paul sees where the money is. And as a result, this man is really taking his career seriously. Now, anyone out there who doesn't want to give him credit for being a boxer, I think half of that is fair because he hasn't fought a boxer. But the other half of that, I think he's just hating on the man, okay? When you watch Jake Paul in the ring, he's not a guy who's coming out of a tough man competition. There's some skill there, okay? Now, he's not a Shakur Stevenson, but there's some skill there. I put it to you this way, right? Who do you think is more skillful? Jake Paul or Marcellus Wilder? Jake Paul or Tommy Fury? Okay? Now, those guys are boxers, and they're out there fighting boxers. So you got to give them all the respect in the world. But I personally feel Jake Paul would beat both of them. So Marcellus Wilder, I'm not really sure what he's doing. But for Tommy Fury, that fight's 90% done, is what Jake Paul said, and his trainer, BJ Flores said that fight is 90% done. Now, the thing is, right, while everyone is sitting here ridiculing Jake Paul because he and his brother keep the names in the media, this man is in the lab training and getting better, okay? And some of you will say, oh, well, sure, anyone can go to the gym. No, look, Jake Paul's story is a little bit different. He's gone on record and said that boxing changed his life. And I believe that sports can change a person's life, okay? Now, you got to understand, Jake Paul isn't a guy who's just come into boxing and now getting all of this acclaim, all of this stardom, all of this attention, all of these women at him, all of this money. Jake Paul's been like a celebrity for a few years now, okay, before boxing. Living out there in California, partying like a rock star, getting drunk. I don't tell him what else he was doing. You know there were women involved. But that is a destructive lifestyle to live, okay? You can't live that lifestyle and then want to be a boxer. So for those of you who don't want to give this man the credit, well, let's look at what he did, okay? He left California, moved to Puerto Rico. You can say, oh, it's because he don't pay taxes over there. Okay, well, he's smart. But the second thing is he's away from those distractions, okay? And he's taking it serious. Jake Paul was a guy who had been bullied, who has bullied people as a young man. In school, he's a situation where teachers called him stupid from elementary school up through junior high and high school. So he was nobody ever believed that he would amount to anything. Now, it doesn't sound like his brother Logan Paul endured that kind of bullying from kids and teachers. But Jake Paul definitely went through it. And when you listen to him talk and listen to him ramble on sometimes, I could see where in school people may have teased and made fun of him. I could see where he's a class clown, being a disturbance in class, and a teacher lashes out at him and says something crazy. I definitely could see all of those instances. But I also think that some of his misery was self-incurred as well, right? We just got to keep it real. But when you look at what this man is doing at this moment, okay? I don't care whether you like him or not. Just the fact that he's a young man who's putting his health first, who's trying to do something with boxing. And, you know, he's gradually increasing the level of opposition. And that's no different from anyone else who is coming up. They're going to have a few tomato cans thrown at them. Now, the tomato cans that were thrown at Jake Paul the first like 3 fights, there were rotten tomatoes inside those cans. So it wasn't just a tomato can. Those tomatoes are rotten inside, all right? But he got past that. He got in there with Woodley. And I'm going to ask you a question. How many of you really felt Jake Paul was going to beat Tyron Woodley? Much less get a draw in that first fight. Or, get a win in that first fight, right? There's something in his hands. And the second fight, how many of you thought Jake Paul was really going to knock him out? See, nobody. I thought Tyron Woodley was going to annihilate him. But when you watch a lot of the sparring clips of Jake Paul, and in sparring, you're not supposed to be in there damaging people like that. But Jake Paul in there murdering people, that's not cool. You know what I'm saying? But the bottom line is there's something special about his hands. Now his footwork and everything, he's a work in progress. Okay? Now, Jake Paul is not, I don't think Jake Paul is going to, he could end up winning a world title at light heavyweight. He could. Anything's possible. Highly unlikely, but I guess it's possible. But it's just certain things, right? When you've been boxing for years, that muscle memory, certain things you do instinctively, okay? There's a lot of guys, man, I'm no spring chicken anymore. But myself, they have a gym out here, right? And I go to every now and then, especially when my sons are in school, I'll go there and do some of the workouts. And there's a guy who'll come through the gym while you're working out, and he has pads. And he'll just go up to random people, and have you hitting the mitts and stuff. It's more like a fun thing, cardio type thing, right? But when he when he comes over to me, we don't know each other, but there's a certain understanding. I guess because you could tell, if somebody has boxed before. I don't care how long it's been since you're throwing punches. If you can hit the mitts, you can still hit the mitts. It may not be as clean as it was. It may not be as fast as it was, but you still understand those combinations. So when he comes to me, there's certain things that I just do instinctively. You know what I'm saying? Especially after we get through like the second round, then, I'm ready. But then my ass gets tired too because I'm not 160, 180 pounds anymore. So, I get winded, man. But I say that to say this. If me at my age still do things instinctively, right? Because muscle memory. Jake Paul continues winning and beats a couple of decent names. If he gets in there to fight somehow for a belt, I just don't see him being able to, with his starting boxing professionally in his 20s, to get on there and bang with someone who's been doing it since he's been a young guy. Because there's certain things his body's not going to respond the way the other guy's body is. And I think Jake Paul can really he'll get defeated. Now let's get on the thing so we talked about Jake Paul and being a young guy and partying in California, boxing, saving his life. It's up to structure his life, his routine, and putting his health first and cutting out the alcohol, cutting out the drugs, cutting out the party, and being around the girls and all of that crap. We're talking about the money that he's making, right? But it gives him a freedom to release a lot of stress and anger that he has in him right now, because social media is rough, man. Same way he goes and trolls people troll him. You better believe it bothers him too, okay? So it gives him an outlet, man, to get that stuff out of his system. So that's a good thing about it, man. But this thing about Jake Paul and not fighting boxers, it was a point I was going to make, but I just totally had a brain fart, right? But with Tommy Fury, this fight being 90% done, I watched Tommy Fury's last fight. Tommy Fury is improving. But Jake Paul is improving too. Okay? Now, who has more to lose here? Man, I don't know. I think they both have a lot to lose. Because Jake Paul, with his promotional company, I forgot what the hell the name of his promotional company is, but I don't even want to call it the wrong name. But a lot of that is kind of built off of this momentum he has going as this YouTuber transitioning into boxing, becoming a knockout artist, right? So he's using that platform to push the promotional company. So Jake Paul, in every fight he's in, he's kind of cornered himself to where he has to look spectacular. Jake Paul, in my opinion, he can't afford to lose, because if he loses, then what he's trying to establish on that boxing foundation, to me, is going to crumble. Now, I could be wrong, but the Amanda Serrano, getting her to big fights, man, I almost said the name of that damn promotional company. I think they can still do that, but I just think it'll be a little harder. Right now, he has his most improved, some that's the name of that promotional company, man. But right now he's able to do a lot of things because he has all this momentum going. But if Jake Paul takes a loss to Tommy Fury, well, then I think the kind of Jake Paul hype train is gonna kind of go up in flames. Okay, but then again, some people never taking him seriously anyway. Now, for Tommy Fury, who is supposed to be, you know, the gypsy, the fighting man from the Tyson Fury family, has the family name. For him, he wants to escape that Love Island, whatever the hell reality show he did. This Ken and Barbie kind of hybrid kind of person. He wants to be seen as a true fighter, as a fighting man, right? If he gets in there and loses to Jake Paul, he's gonna get ripped. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna get ripped, especially by the English English media. And Tyson Fury already said he's gonna disown him. So they both have a lot to lose, but this is the thing. Both of these guys are getting better, and I think we're gonna see a really, really good boxing match. I'm not sure how the fight's gonna play out, but I think Jake Paul's gonna knock Tommy Fury out. I really do. And you see, Tommy Fury hasn't been saying anything lately. You see, when these guys start getting quiet, that means that deals are in work. It's like Terrence Crawford and Earl Spence. They're talking. They got quiet for a moment after Spence fought. About 8 weeks went by where they weren't really saying anything. Now they're talking a little bit. That's because the deal's in work. It's done. It's a done deal. Okay, but they're just waiting to announce it. Tommy Fury and Jake Paul, they're getting quiet now. August is coming around. Guys are back training because they're supposed to be fighting in August. Okay, so I think Jake Paul and Tommy Fury have a lot to prove in this fight. You gotta give, from what we've seen so far, gotta give the power to Jake, and as far as technique and boxing, overall boxing ability, gotta give that to Tommy Fury. But Jake Paul is still working. And I think what we're going to get when these two come together, man, I think we're going to get chemical combustion, man. I think it's going to be an explosion. I think within four rounds, someone's going to get hurt. And I think we may see Jake get buzzed a little bit. But I think ultimately, Tommy Fury, I was watching his fights, he started fighting too late, in my opinion. He doesn't get those hands back quick enough to defend against that big right hand from Jake Paul. Jake Paul does a great job at this moment of disguising that right hand. Now the thing is this, with Jake Paul, what was happening with Jake Paul in the beginning is he was being trained on how to throw shots, the type of combinations, punch selection, when to let shots go, right? And Jake Paul has improved in those areas. But where he was struggling is the defense part. So he knew the punch selection he wanted to throw, when to throw it, how to create those angles as well. But he didn't know how to defend after he threw those punches, defend against the punches that could come back at him as a result of the punch selection that he put out. He has been working on that, and that's going to make a huge difference. But you got to work that in sparring, okay? Sparring is where you get your bumps and bruises, but also where you gain confidence. If you can get into sparring and do things against different sparring partners, right? Consistently do things. That's going to give you the confidence going into your fight to be able to pull those things off. Now, if you're not pushing yourself in sparring, getting sparring partners in to really try to put that heat on you, then when you get in the ring, you can't expect to perform. And I really think with Jake Paul and Tommy Fury both going into this fight, let's just say they've never done that before. I think going into this fight, they're definitely pulling out all the stops. Like, neither one of these guys want to lose. For Tommy Fury, it's because of his name, honestly. For Jake Paul, because he's building an empire based off of what he's been doing in boxing. And if he wants to keep growing that successfully and at a rapid rate, he can't afford to take a loss to Tommy Fury, okay? He just can't. But at the same time, boxing, sometimes you take losses. It's not the end of the world. But if for Jake Paul to lose, not to Tommy Fury, although I think Tommy Fury is more than capable of winning the fight, I just think for Jake Paul, let it be someone who's, I would say, more of a threat and with a real name in boxing, okay? And that's no disrespect to Tommy Fury. He's still a novice. He's still not proven. But if Jake Paul was to get in there and fight, who's someone who's, he fight over 175? Oh no, let's say he got in there and fought, who's someone at 168 who's not too much of a problem? Say he fought Jarrett Hurd, okay? I don't know, Jarrett Hurd could probably make 168. He's a big boy. Say he fought a guy like Jarrett Hurd, right? Who's not doing anything, or Luis Arias, right? These guys aren't really doing anything. I don't know if they can, get up that high, but let's say at 168, they meet somewhere in the middle, and he fought someone like that, okay? These guys are good fighters. Jarrett Hurd's kind of fallen off, right? But these guys are good fighters. But let's say he gets in there and he touches one of them. Say even if he doesn't win, let's say he handles himself well. Jake Paul's stock goes through the roof. If he beats them, it's all she wrote. Not sure he'll get that opportunity. But what I'm saying is, take a loss against one of those guys, not against Tommy Fury. And Tommy Fury, same thing, conversely. Take a loss against one of those guys, Tommy Fury. Don't take a loss against Jake Paul. But I think everyone knows Jake Paul's not a joke. He's not a clown. In boxing, you got the boxer, you got the boxer puncher, you got the swarmer, you got the brawler, and you got the brawler, then you just have the puncher. Okay? I think I said boxer puncher too, right? Jake Paul fits into one of those categories. And that's what boxing is about. Not everybody's the boxer puncher, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. No, Jake Paul falls just into that Ricardo Mayorga category. And look at how far Ricardo Mayorga went. You can't sit here and tell me Ricardo Mayorga had sound boxing fundamental skills. No, he was super basic, like Jake Paul, but he was ferocious and just didn't care and had power. So if Mayorga can go all the way, why can't Jake Paul? And don't sit there and forget what Mayorga did to Vernon Forrest. Okay, because when you're a fighter that's intimidated, right? It doesn't matter how talented you are. If someone can intimidate you in the ring, like what I think happened between Mayorga and Forrest, when Forrest hit him with his best shot and it didn't phase him, and Mayorga didn't do anything but get upset, shout shit in Spanish, and just attack him. I think when you run into that, then anyone who's a puncher who just doesn't care and is ferocious has a good chance. But I'll leave it at that. Jake Paul left the partying lifestyle, focus on boxing, focus on his health, focus on just being healthy mentally and physically, and he really wants to make noise in the sport of boxing. He's looking to step it up now, get beyond the athletes, the YouTubers, and fight a real boxer with a real name, Tommy Fury. I personally think he's going to clip him, but there's no guarantee, but I think he's going to clip him. And after that, you'll see him step up to another fight with a bigger name. Bottom line, Jake Paul, in my opinion, has more to lose than Tommy Fury. But if Jake Paul can continue winning, then his empire will keep growing. So will his value. And I think he's going to be able to help a lot of people over the long term. but that's still yet to be seen. But that being said, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Shout out to all the veterans. And as always, I'm in the breeze.